Challenges continue to stare us in the face as we continue our local to global journey in TEW IX. Thanks to the Effganic Genesis mod, we are faced with a universe unique to us. And while we continue to make strides with the progress of our wrestling company, in this episode, we take the first step into a new era of change and uncertainty for this company. Who knows what the future holds, but there's only one way to find out. Welcome back everyone to a monumental episode of our journey into transforming the WAM from a tiny insignificant wrestling company to a company that can rival the biggest in the world and the first in the world, Southern Pro Wrestling. Now you can see here, our funds are at $15,896. That was a big flip from the debt that we were once in our last episode. And the reason for that is that our company has been sold to Barnabas Beef Wellington, a rotund, wealthy businessman, a mogul known for his opulent lifestyle. He has purchased the WAM from Levi Andrews, and while this man has no knowledge of the wrestling industry, he has deep pockets, which aren't necessarily available to us, but he has decided to absorb this wrestling company as another business venture of his. However, he does not come alone. He comes with 3 of his sons, which are not on our roster. Coming alongside our new owner, Barnabas Beef Wellington, we will be offering contracts to his 3 sons entering the wrestling industry. The first one being Angus Wellington, his youngest son. He will be receiving creative control within his claws, and he certainly does not have any kind of stats that's going to wow anybody. A really poor wrestler with really poor skills, but he has got the backing of his father behind him, making for a unique situation that will be overtaking the WAM. However, alongside Angus, we've got Chuck Wellington as well. This is the talented, handsome, naturally gifted brother of the 3. However, he's got just as poor of a personality as his younger brother Angus, although you can see that he's actually got some decent abilities. And Chuck Wellington will also be receiving creative control in his contract. And finally, Duke Wellington, the oldest brother. While he does not lack any wealth, he does not have the same arrogance as his brother and even his father. Duke Wellington is the outlier of the family. However, he does have some personality traits that certainly work against him. Crazy jealous, fat jeans, he's a former smoker, but overall Duke Wellington is a good dude, opposed to Chuck Wellington, who is a bit of a canny operator, meaning he will hold back on shows that don't matter. He refuses to do any kind of stunts, and of course is unpredictable in nature. And then we've got Angus Wellington, who is just rather annoying as a motor mouth. And so it'll be interesting to see what these brothers get into on this roster. And while Barnabas Beef Wellington doesn't know much or anything about the wrestling industry, he does know just enough as far as certain production values, and we're going to upgrade our music, preventing us from being subject to fine. And we're also going to upgrade our merchandise as well. We're going to set that to rapid. However, we are ready to begin preparations for the amazing Grappling Spectacle 44, the first edition with the new ownership of the Wellingtons. And in his first evening, no longer owner of the company, Levi Andrews turned up so high on soft drugs that he had to be sent home as he was in no condition to work. We're not going to suspend him, we're not going to send him to rehab, but we are going to fine him. We had a blazing argument between Black Bull and Maxwell Ham. Kyson Mays and Brian Hatcher butted heads backstage. Charlie Thompson and John Wolfe have been hanging out a lot recently. And Angus Wellington failed to show up for a scheduled meeting with the road agent. And this is the first instance that we've had, and we are his father. We're going to take no action on this man. And the lack of action actually had a small negative impact on Angus. Dean Grunge has gotten a lot of heat with the rest of the locker room. We are going to fine this man. And Albie Dewberry getting a lot of heat in the locker room as well. We're going to fine him too. A bunch of incidents in the locker room with the new ownership, but we're going to go ahead and move forward, and we are going to take a hardline stance for Mr. Wellington on his first night here. Nobody chose to walk out, and we're grateful for that. And one change that came with the new ownership was a change in style. We are out of the carnival days, as that is low sponsorship, and that is just not a practical business decision for a wealth-oriented man that Sir Beef Wellington is. So we have gone with the no style. This is still pretty open, although we're going to need to use 3 different match aims each show, but it's going to increase our sponsorship, and that is the main driving factor here. And with that being said, we are ready to start the show. We've got some pre-show matches, this one being with Maxwell Ham defeating Fumihiko Onoda, as some of our fresh faces just continue to get some reps, continue to get some work, and we see an in-ring performance of 27 from Ham and an in-ring performance of 22 from Onoda. Putting it together, we get a segment rating of 21, and Onoda needs some work. He needs to continue to improve those numbers, but Maxwell Ham, we have seen some good things from him. Moving on to the next segment, we got a total rating of 32, as we had Bronson Fraley and Wayne Blankenship without some significant work this evening, so we just continue to keep some of our bigger names in the ring, continuing to work, and we see Fraley turn in an in-ring performance of 38, and Blankenship with an in-ring performance of 32. Granted, if Levi Andrews was not high on soft drugs, we would have had some more significant stuff for Bronson Fraley tonight. However, he still opens up the show in a segment, and we've got Bronson Fraley making his way to the ring, beginning to speak on Levi Andrews. Fraley mentions how great it felt to put Andrews down for the count last month, and states that that was for Frank Norris. However, Fraley states that he's now looking to take Levi Andrews out once again, but this time Fraley is doing it for himself. Fraley would be met with silence, because obviously Levi Andrews isn't here, which frustrated the former champion, though the silence was broken when Chuck and Angus Wellington made their way down to the ring, shooing Bronson Fraley along as they introduced themselves to the crowd and announced the match to begin the night. So our first instance of the Wellington boys, the Wellington dynasty. Chuck Wellington, Angus Wellington, we don't see Duke Wellington here. And Barnabas is going to be an off-screen. He's not going to be a character. He's the money bags of the whole operation. But we get a segment rating of 33, and the show gets off to a good start with this segment. Now the challenge of these Wellington boys is that they're not great in the ring, but we're gonna have to feature them since their father bailed us out. But we see a handicap match. RT Lincoln is the unlucky one who gets put into a handicap match, but RT Lincoln actually secured the victory after pinning Angus Wellington. Angus came into the match kind of looking to vulture the pin. However, Angus, the unathletic man that he is, he gets thwapped by RT Lincoln, and RT Lincoln actually picks up the victory. Chuck Wellington, he was kind of playing to the crowd. He was looking off to the audience, believing that his brother was collecting the pin. However, it was his brother getting pinned after all, and RT Lincoln with a big upset as the Wellington brothers actually take a loss in their debut, not what they expected. Next, we've got a match between Randy Edson and Woodrow Gunter. Just a match to keep Gunter featured on this show, as he is a new signing. He's our most expensive member on the roster, and he's also a heavyweight looking to make a name for himself here. So we get a segment rating of 27, not a terrible match, but you'd like to see better. Randy Edson, not a great performance, down there at 20. Woodrow Gunter with an in-ring performance of 34. Moving on to the next match, we've got another 6-man tag team match after we were introduced to a 6-man tag team match for the first time last month. Thank you, Levi Andrews. But we've got Diego Berrigan, Craig Bean, and Dean Grunge teaming up to take on Brian Hatcher, Charlie Thompson, and John Wolfe, as this heavyweight uprising from Hatcher, Thompson, and Wolfe, members of the roster for quite some time, versus Diego Berrigan, Craig Bean, and Dean Grunge, all new, fresh, familiar faces as of 1928, looking to make a big statement. However, the new faces continue to get the leg up on Hatcher and company, as Diego Berrigan actually is the one to score the victory after pinning Charlie Thompson. And Diego Berrigan, with an in-ring performance of 21, this is actually really disappointing, as Berrigan has typically been a better performer. However, that was a different style, so some of these guys are going to start performing a little differently, and we're going to see them in a little different light, so that will be another element that we're going to have to account for. Our heavyweight champion, Neil Allman, is in action against Benson Sandy, a very solid worker. And we see Neil Allman put together an in-ring performance of 43, Benson Sandy with an in-ring performance of 40. Nice job here. We see a pretty good match between these two, putting up good numbers here. Neil Allman takes care of business and secures the victory over Benson Sandy. Bryant Hines did some good work ringside. We love to see that one. Segment rating of 37, and we move on into the next segment because there is some fallout from this one. And that consists of Friedrich Herzog coming down to the ring, interrupting the champion's celebration, quickly getting into his face, and making it clear that he wants a shot at the heavyweight championship. So we start to see some tension brewing between Neil Allman and Friedrich Herzog, two babyfaces who have teamed together in the past, but now it seems that Friedrich Herzog is setting his sights on the heavyweight championship. And then in our main event of the evening, we get the best match that we have had in the entire history of the company, and it's not too surprising. Joel Cartwright, Albie Dewberry. This was for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, however it doesn't seem to be reflected in these notes, because Christopher Hartwell, not pleased, unaccepting of the loss that he took to Joel Cartwright last month, he ran in and attacked Joel Cartwright. This would give Joel Cartwright the victory via disqualification. And Albie Dewberry, he's an honorable babyface. He's not pleased with the way that this match went. Joel Cartwright obviously upset, and Christopher Hartwell not happy that he was not a part of the championship match in the first place. So a big segment rating of 46 to end the night. And altogether, that gives us a show rating of 41. So a great main event, really lifts us up. And Joel Cartwright and Albie Dewberry, in all honesty, did exactly what I thought that they would do and absolutely just tear the house down. And for that, they're going to receive some praise. Now, in the finances, we make a show profit of $2. Thanks to the nice gate sales of 1,000 plus, our merchandise bumps up to 50. Now, of course, that is going to be upgraded in just a matter of a few weeks. So all in all, not a bad first episode under the Wellington ownership. And there's another move that we're going to make. We're going to bring on Riker Zucker. He's a 24-year-old color commentator, and he is going to receive a contract from us to act as a bit of the authority figure almost, kind of the messenger for Sir Beef Wellington. It's only $20 a show, plus of course he's got some travel costs coming from New England, but who knows, if he likes being in the WAM, he might just move over to the Mid-South. Not something I'm counting on, but we're going to send him a contract offer anyway. And before we get into our next show, Friedrich Herzog is annoyed after we took him off of the booking team, which admittedly probably wasn't the best decision because we just put Christopher Hartwell, who has poor chemistry, on there. But I digress. We're going to give him a creative idea. We've got a few of them, and a few of them are even going to expire soon. So this one is a near certainty. It was a success. He's still annoyed. We're going to feed him another near certainty. The man is still annoyed. We're going to go with a likely to succeed, and this one was a failure. So you don't love to see that. And ultimately, Friedrich Herzog is still annoyed after all of our attempts to alleviate his issues. Randy Edson is also annoyed. Funny enough, those are the only two with any kind of morale issue, so we're going to feed Randy Edson one more creative idea, which is likely to succeed. It was a success, but he's still annoyed, not surprising there. And this is going to be an interesting one. Friedrich Herzog failed to show up for a scheduled meeting. He's already annoyed. We have issues with this. We're going to give him a slap on the wrist and just hope this doesn't affect him negatively. And of course, there it is. It had a small negative effect. Dean Grunge was being a jerk backstage. We're going to fine him not for being a jerk, but for physically attacking Christopher Hartwell. Levi Andrews and Kamari Bryant been spending time together, and Randy Edson was brought to the wrestler's court. But that's all we got for the evening. We're going to go for an inspiring speech to fire up the locker room and a good show. And as we begin the next iteration of the amazing grappling spectacle, we see Duke Wellington, the eldest of the Wellington brothers, making his debut on this pre-show match, defeating Dean Florian and getting a segment rating of 22. Now all the Wellington brothers are heavyweights, so this is a heavyweight beating up on a junior heavyweight a little bit, but it is just in the pre-show. However, we do see Angus Wellington doing some good work at ringside. You gotta love to see that. Duke Wellington with an in-ring performance of 25, and Dean Florian at an in-ring performance of 24. Now we begin the show with Levi Andrews making his way to the ring. This time, he does not carry the typical arrogant attitude of Levi Andrews. This time, in fact, Andrews seems rather serious and focused, calling for Bronson Fraley's attention. Levi Andrews denounces Bronson Fraley, criticizing his errant behavior and volatile emotional state. Levi Andrews claims that he is done with Bronson Fraley, and he tells the former champion, typo there, to stop chasing ghosts, and finishes by encouraging Fraley to decide whether he is a confident showman or an unstable monster. Levi Andrews then shifts his attention to the fans, stating that it's their fault that he sold the company. Levi Andrews then reminds everyone that he had the financial means to secure the company's future, but states the fans and the members of the roster simply aren't worth saving. Before he would leave the ring and head to the back, Levi Andrews would claim the Wham would not be where it is now without him. Levi Andrews just not happy with the way that things went down as the fans kind of turned on him. Granted, it was more of fans just realizing his true character and shedding some light as to why he sold the company. Of course, the company was in financial trouble, but Levi Andrews is a famous movie star, allegedly, so you would think that he would be able to just kind of take care of the company, but that's not what we saw here. Levi Andrews does kind of hint at still holding a little bit of power within the Wham. Moving on to our next match, RT Lincoln back in a handicap match. However, this time, not so lucky, and you see a familiar face on the side of the Wellington dynasty, and that is in fact Black Bull. This match could only go 6 minutes long due to the poor stamina of Angus Wellington, but Black Bull setting up the victory for Angus Wellington, and then Angus Wellington would then come in, successfully vulture the pin, unlike what he was unsuccessful at last month. And it's no secret that Angus Wellington is just garbage in the ring. He got an in-ring performance of 12, Chuck Wellington with an in-ring performance of 22, still not great, but Black Bull carrying the match with an in-ring performance of 37, and it seems that Black Bull is going to act as the muscle of the Wellington dynasty, as these unaccomplished and incapable wrestlers try to dominate the new company that their father just purchased. Overall, with a segment rating of 22, and this is just the price that we're going to have to pay with the company being saved, as we're going to take a hit on some of these segments. Up next, we're featuring Riker Zucker for the very first time, and he announces on the behalf of Barnabas Beef Wellington that the issues between Brian Hatcher, Charlie Thompson, John Wolfe, Diego Bergen, Craig Bean, and Dean Grunge will be disputed in various singles matches over the next few months. My typing was all over the place when setting up this description, so I apologize for that. But the point is, singles matches between these guys where the losers of the matches will lose their contracts with the Wham. So we're going to be thinning the roster just a little bit, and it's not going to be a tag team environment. It's going to be every man for themselves, basically, in singles matches, and we're going to see just who comes out of this one still members of the roster. Segment rating of 26 here. Up next, we have a decent tag team match between some heavyweights and some junior heavyweights, and we see Bronson Fraley and Woodrow Gunter defeating Wayne Blankenship and Fumihiko Onoda, and we would see Woodrow Gunter score the pinfall, and he got an in-ring performance of 36, Bronson Fraley at 37, Onoda at 25, and Blankenship at 32. So overall, not some bad work from our heavyweights here, some top tier heavyweights, and this is the first instance of Fraley and Gunter rubbing shoulders in any capacity. Segment rating of 30, and we are ready to move on with a white hot crowd. Benson Sandy, Friedrich Herzog, these two have faced off long ago when Friedrich Herzog was new to the Wham, and we see another solid performance just like I thought we might. After Benson Sandy in-ring performance of 39, Herzog with an in-ring performance of 54 as he picks up the victory via submission with a segment rating of 41 overall. And just another dominant display from Friedrich Herzog as he continues to make his case as to why he should be the one to challenge Neil Allman next. And in the next segment, we would actually see some head-to-head between Allman and Herzog, as Neil Allman would make his appearance from the curtain, applauding the powerful contender. This would quickly grab the attention of Friedrich Herzog, who would then hastily meet Allman on the entrance ramp. The two then shared an intense confrontation, setting the stage for a future title match. So it just seems that we are heading right in the direction of Friedrich Herzog and Neil Allman going one-on-one with the heavyweight championship of the Wham on the line. Just see a segment rating of 37 here, and that's a little unfortunate given Neil Allman's performance abilities, But we're going to move on as we still have our main event. And that is another fantastic match. A triple threat between the junior heavyweights. And we've got Albie Dewberry defending his junior heavyweight championship against both Joel Cartwright and Christopher Hartwell. This one went 11.5 minutes. Albie Dewberry pinning Christopher Hartwell, and the match was designed so the wrestlers could go steal the show. That they did with another great performance at 46. Joel Cartwright 56, Albie Dewberry 59, setting the pace for the match, and Christopher Hartwell down at 32. So it's clear that Albie Dewberry and Joel Cartwright are just the class of the junior heavyweight division and really the WHAM in general, if we're being honest. But we got a segment rating of 46, and that is with our creative finish actually failing. So if that was a success, this match could have been enhanced even more. But we're not going to dwell on it. We are going to celebrate the fantastic ratings here. But overall, Albie Dewberry coming out of this one still the junior heavyweight champion. And that's going to end our show. And this show is at a 45 rating that is rivaling one of the best, if it is not the best, just going off the top of my head. We see multiple great segments with our main event, Friedrich Herzog and Benson Sandy, and then of course Levi Andrews with a great promo to start the show. Despite the poor ratings with our Wellington boys, we still see a really nice show come out of this one. We're going to compliment Woodrow Gunter and Bronson Fraley as they turned in some decent performances tonight, and we just did Albie Dewberry and Joel Cartwright last month. Only losing $36 on this show. We are still sitting in positive finances, so that is huge. But we cannot get lackadaisical just because we're sitting positive, because now we have even more of a reason that we cannot allow ourselves to go negative. But once we see that merchandise upgrade, I do think we're going to see some things turn around as well. We got the notification that Friedrich Herzog and Dean Florian's contracts are both coming to an end soon. Friedrich Herzog, you know we're going to have to renegotiate a contract with him. And we're going to try to extend him for another 2 years, and we're going to see what he thinks about that one. Whereas Dean Florian, in all honesty, he's got a great personality type, and I really appreciate that he contributes positively to the backstage environment. However, I just haven't been using him a ton. He doesn't have much popularity, if any at all. He's still a rookie. But overall, I'm just not feeling it, and he's not being utilized in any kind of way to really be convinced to keep him, outside of that positive personality type. So we're going to just have to see what we're going to do about that. I'm not too sure right now. However, we can confirm that Friedrich Herzog has accepted another 2-year contract to stay with the WHAM, as long as he does not sign with SPW. And we see a huge bit of movement going on with SPW. Kenny Wiles has left SPW. The legendary referee is no longer employed by Don Loomis, and while he is a longtime friend, Frank Norris ain't around, and Barnabas only knows that Kenny Wiles is the biggest name in all of refereeing. So we are going to send this man a contract offer. We're just going to send it for 2 years, $20 a show, and we're going to see if we can capture the greatest referee in the history of wrestling thus far. And yes, indeed, we do in fact pick up Kenny Wiles as a referee. That is huge, honestly. Really big signing for Mr. Kenny Wiles and for the WHAM. One quick tweak with the scheduling really quick. Knowing that our merchandise is about to finish up in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to push back our next show just another couple of weeks so we can reap the benefits of our merchandise upgrade this month rather than having to go another show with our current merchandise rates. So we're just going to push this guy back 3 weeks exactly, and I'm sure that'll be enough time, and we'll be throwing on a little bit of Christmas cheer for our next show, in fact. And our merchandise upgrade has completed, and Dean Florian has now left the WHAM due to his contract expiring. He's still at CSW, so he'll continue to get some work, and he did not leave on bad terms, and he'd be willing to renegotiate again, so we're just going to add him to the short list so we don't forget about him. Don't forget about that class clown personality type. but we are going to move on from the junior heavyweight. And it's about that time to spread a little bit of holiday cheer here on December 22nd, 1928, the final event held by the WHAM here in 1928, as we are ready to present the Amazing Grappling Spectacle 46, and we've got a pre-show match between Wayne Blankenship and Woodrow Gunter, and two guys that turn in fine performances that are just not involved in any kind of major stories right now. So they are just on the pre-show providing some entertainment here. Segment rating of 31. Now the first of a few matches that will feature the stipulation where the loser leaves the WHAM, and we get Diego Berrigan defeating Charlie Thompson, as Diego Berrigan will survive and continue his contract here in the WHAM, but Charlie Thompson will be the first man on the chopping block, and it's really unfortunate because we had high hopes for Charlie Thompson. We were the ones that specifically brought him into this universe. However, his buddy Frankie Ashby left the company. Then he lost his avatar picture. Alexander Keith left. The stable that was the Bootleggers basically dissolved, and Charlie Thompson was the last man here, and he really had some potential, but now he just has no direction. So Diego Berrigan comes in, bounces back from a poor performance the last time we saw him, and we see Diego Berrigan turn in an in-ring performance of 34 here. And I think we made the correct decision keeping Diego Berrigan over Charlie Thompson. As Charlie Thompson only had the in-ring performance of 23, we get a segment rating of 30, and the show is off to a strong start. Our next match features Albie Dewberry and Levi Andrews. However, this match would come to a draw, and it was not included here, and my road agent notes must have just nullified each other, because this match would be called as a draw, a no contest, because we would see Bronson Fraley coming in, causing a disqualification as he attacked both men. And that would set up a segment with a lot of guys in it. And Bronson Fraley, clearly not accepting Levi Andrews' words from the last show, takes his chance to get his hands on Levi Andrews once more. However, JP Cromwell and Blue Mage would quickly protect their client, allowing Levi Andrews to make a quick escape. So Bronson Fraley came out here to get his hands on Levi Andrews after Levi Andrews said he was done with Bronson Fraley. As the scene began to die down and Levi Andrews had made his way to the back, Chuck and Angus Wellington made their way to the ring alongside Black Bull, once again shooing off Bronson Fraley, who was stunned to see Black Bull accompanying the pompous Wellington brothers. Now, Bronson Fraley and Black Bull, they've got history with one another. They aren't necessarily the best of friends, but they were certainly a part of Frank Norris's little power crew. So for Bronson Fraley to see Black Bull lackeying up with some real D-bags that really aren't that great of wrestlers, it was awfully shocking for the former heavyweight champion, to say the least. But all in all, we get a segment rating of 29 here. And we knew we were not getting a barn buster in this next match, and we once again see Black Bull carrying the ring work. And when Black Bull is the one carrying the performance, you might be in a little bit of trouble. And we got Chuck Wellington, Angus Wellington picking up the handicap victory. This time, Chuck Wellington would be the one to come in and vulture the pin, defeating Randy Edson. Now, it'll be interesting to see how we can make this fit and make this work with these wrestlers, because this was the stipulation that I accepted in my mind for getting that financial bailout from a new owner of the company. And these boys, they've got creative control, and they're going to be featured just about every single show. So that is just the added challenge of staying in business now. And Black Bull finally being accepted, even if it's by a bunch of douchebags. But our man is acting with purpose here. Segment rating at 24, not what we want to see, but it's just what we're dealing with. Moving on. And in the next match, we actually get a great match, going from a segment rating of 24 to a segment rating of 42. We get Joel Cartwright defeating Christopher Hartwell in 9.5 minutes after in a 2 out of 3 falls match. We were trying to steal the show. Joel Cartwright with an in-ring performance of 48, Christopher Hartwell with an in-ring performance of 31. Cartwright seemed off his game, but he still had a really strong performance here, and I have now paired Cartwright and Suarez, and they actually happen to have some great chemistry. So Suarez wasn't being used after she renewed her contract, I added her to both Bronson Fraley and Joe Cartwright so we get a nice implementation of a truly phenomenal manager. But all in all, this 2 out of 3 falls match basically solidifies Joe Cartwright and nullifies any kind of reason that Christopher Hartwell should take part in any kind of shenanigans, as Joe Cartwright and Albie Dewberry will once again run it back for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. However, that's a championship match for the future, but we've got a championship match tonight. As their match is set to begin, Friedrich Herzog and Neil Allman show a sign of respect to the other as a handshake follows an intense stare down, with all signs pointing to an exciting match between Herzog and Allman. And we see a segment rating of 36. It's not the best match. We'd actually love to see better ratings out of these two, as these are some of our top dogs on our roster. Friedrich Herzog with an in-ring performance of 44 and Neil Allman with an in-ring performance of 45. And all in all, they get a segment rating of 36. Neil Allman once again defending his WHAM Heavyweight Championship. And as we end out 1928, we're just around the corner from the Derby, which will leave Neil Allman with his hands quite full. But altogether, we get a show rating of 36. Not a bad show by any means with where we're at. Joe Cartwright and Christopher Hartwell really stole the show and had the match of the night. And we also saw some good work from Albie Dewberry as well as our main event, though I think the main event could have been a little bit better. But regardless, we are going to praise Neil Allman and Friedrich Herzog for their contributions, and we are profiting $300 from this show, as we had some good attendance, and our merchandise upgrade has completed, which will more than double our production there. And given that it is January 1st, I think it's a fitting way to end out this episode as we go into the awards. And you can see right here our homepage has got the Male Wrestler of the Year, but let's take a closer look. And to no surprise, Daniel Loisel winning Male Wrestler of the Year for the 8th time, all in succession. No Male Tag Team of the Year still, we've only seen it happen one time, but we might just see the Wellington boys make this happen. Rocco Sims, Male Young Wrestler of the Year, under 24, he's been working for FNP for quite a while, as well as CWB, and in fact, he is the CWB World Heavyweight Champion. He's got some pretty good skills, but he is quite the agitator, as we can see that negative personality is probably going to keep him away from the WHAM, despite having the ability to put up some pretty dang good matches. We see Alexander Keith once again for the 3rd time winning Male Veteran Wrestler of the Year. He is well ingrained back in SPW and even appearing back in CWB, as he is a tag team champion in SPW and a television champion in CWB. And I use that term television rather loosely. Anthony Henry wins Male Independent Wrestler of the Year for the very first time, and this is the number 2 wrestler in all of the land, and it's not hard to see why with some truly fantastic stats that he's got. SPW wins Company of the Year once again, to no surprise, and we will actually be the ones to take home the Most Improved Company of the Year. I will take that with no complaints. And we actually saw an astounding rating of 73 between Daniel Loisel and Sir Anthony Henry at SPW Come Out and Play. A big improvement from what we saw the last year, or last 2 years even, and this is why SPW is on top. Card of the Year, SPW Oblivion 9 with a rating of 69, nice. And Male Manager of the Year, for the first year it is not Sorley Monaghan, it is Elmer Fly, a man working for FNP, a former boxing manager, and he's got some pretty good skills as well. Tadjo Covarrubias is back for the play-by-play commentator of the year, and Riker Zucker, the male color commentator of the year. He is a part of the WHAM, though what won him the award may not necessarily be his work in the WHAM because he was already employed with the CSW. Kenny Wiles with the Male Referee of the Year, and for the very first time ever we see a female award being presented, as the Female Manager of the Year goes to Veronica Lutter. And while she won an award as being a manager, I'm sure she's going to win lots of awards for being a women's wrestler. And now we're going to take a look at the WHAM Awards, the Male Wrestler of the Year once again going to Albie Dewberry for the 2nd time, And again, this man put in work all year. Taking a look at this match history, look at that, 46, 46, 45. I think those are all the top 3 matches in the history of the Wham. So great job, Ollie Dewberry, continuing to outdo himself. And he was just that man, not just this year, but the year before as well. Male Young Wrestler of the Year goes to Joel Cartwright, and that is the greatest decision that this awards committee probably could have made. Match of the Year, where Albie Dewberry defeated Joel Cartwright and Christopher Hartwell in a triple threat at the Amazing Grappling Spectacle 45, just a few shows, a show that happened in this episode. And that show also won the award of Match Card of the Year, as that took home a rating of 45. No male color commentator of the year, but Kamari Bryant was the male referee of the year. Although with Kenny Lyles on the roster, that may not be the case for much longer. And we've got quick turnaround, as our next edition of the Amazing Grappling Spectacle is just in 4 days. But that's going to do it for this episode, so you're going to have to catch the next episode to see the development of the 4th edition of the Derby, as well as the shenanigans of the Wellington dynasty. Shout out to the real ones on Patreon. You guys are awesome, and your support is greatly appreciated. And as for everyone else, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.